I was going on 13 years old the first time I took a life.
There was 14 people killed. The main boss was decapitated, and they were playing basketball with his head.
Les hice ver, pues, que yo mataba sin compasión. A todos. Siempre les demostraba el ejemplo, pues, de cómo era un sicario.
We broke in there, and we find one, I shot him. There was a dish next to the house, and I buried it. Why would they have proper burial? Them. Let the worm eat them.
You've probably heard of the saying, "Snitches get stitches." That saying rings through in the cartel more than anywhere else. Cartel members are notorious for staying silent. In fact, oftentimes, when they spill any kind of information about the cartel to people outside the cartel, they get targeted for being snitches. But on the rare occasion that a cartel member grants an interview, the stories they share are often very bizarre and downright bone-chilling. This is Narco's most terrifying interview.
I was more addicted to adrenaline of what I could do with the rifle, what I could do with the pistol.
The first on this list is Ailla Gonzalez. Ailla Gonzalez is a former Sicario, also known as a hitman, for one of Mexico's most notorious cartels, the Sinaloa Cartel.
The most powerful is the Sinaloa Cartel. Almost the 70% of the world is infected by this cartel.
Ailla Gonzalez was born in Mexico, but grew up in LA. He had a relatively normal American childhood. If normal American childhoods were populated by gangs, illegal substances, firearms, and theft.
A normal, you could say, American childhood around gangs and all that good stuff that corrupts a kid. Living in South Central, Compton, Firestone region, it's very hectic, you know.
Growing up in South Compton was no picnic for Ailla Gonzalez. While most kids were playing around with trucks and chasing butterflies, Ailla was being introduced to gangs and playing with firearms.
Growing up, you have to be careful where you're walking, what colors you're wearing, because obviously there's a lot of mugging going on, theft, Grand Theft Auto, gang-banging shootouts, so you're under a lot of stress.
Ali's home situations did not help set him on the straight and narrow either. He came from a broken home, and when Ailla was very young, he watched them haul his father to jail amidst very heartbreaking circumstances. All of that had a toll on young Ailla, who was just figuring out who he was in society.
The circumstances of why my father went to prison that pushed me towards gangs, towards committing crimes. I was in a way looking for a way out.
His father, who was supposed to protect the family, ended up being the one who hurt his little sister repeatedly. With no one else in their corner, Ailla was forced to be the man of the house at a very young age.
So my father basically, he raped my sister when we were young. The stress of seeing that obligated me to try to kill him. Stabbed my dad a couple times. Obviously I was barely 12.
When Ali's dad left for prison, there was just him, his sister, and a mother who couldn't speak English. With no help from family or friends, there was no one to take care of things. Ailla was forced to step up.
My mom, being Mexican and not being able to speak the language, because it's not easy living in a country where you don't even know the language, and not having any help from any family members.
Ailla started with home invasions, petty theft, anything to get money. Then he got into moving narcotics and firearms across state lines. Before he knew it, Ailla was involved in gang wars, taking revenge on rival gang members if they came for the members of their gangs.
They kill one of yours, you go looking for one of them. That's how I ended up as a gunslinger or a hitman, well, however you guys want to call it, a Sicario.
Soon enough, LA wasn't enough for Ailla anymore. He had gotten a taste of violence and he wanted more. So he moved to Mexico.
It's a whole different world, and the violence that the human being is able to do is really unthinkable, you know?
Once he got to Mexico, Ali sought out the biggest and the most dangerous of the cartels, the Sinaloa cartel.
Cartel de Sinaloa is one of the biggest ones in Mexico. Went to Sonora and I worked for the Sinaloa as well as a hitman.
Ali found himself working for cartel bosses as a hitman, or what is also known as a Sicario. Sicarios are one of the deadliest parts of the cartel business. When a cartel boss puts a hit out on someone, they're the ones who carry out the hit. They are ruthless, vicious men who devise creative ways to torture people for information, whilst making them beg for their lives.
You take care of the dirty work, you know? That means going into cities and locating these rival hitmen, these rival people or rival drug lords and taking them out.
Though he was around tons of narcotics on a daily basis, Ali never got hooked on it. He was addicted to something else, something more dangerous.
I was more addicted to adrenaline of what I could do with the rifle, what I could do with the pistol. If you're a professional, you know that what you do is you just put 2 in the chest and 1 in the head, that's it. It's better to have them dead than to have them to have evidence where the government will be able to incriminate you.
But how many men did Ali Gonzalez take out before his time as a Sicario came to an end? In an emotionless, matter-of-fact way, Ali admitted to losing count.
There was a time where they picked up like around 12, 15 people. Not all of them were enemies, you know. Sometimes you're in the wrong moment at the wrong time, and for hanging around with the wrong crowd, you get involved. And there was women and men.
But he did remember one particularly vicious time.
But they were obviously recording everything to send a message to the rivals, and they went at it with axes and chainsaws. They dismembered everybody.
He remembered a lot of those times. He unleashed violence on a community, just to set an example for other members of the communities who dared stand up to the cartel.
They see several heads appear in the morning with a big old message, or several pieces of bodies scattered around the city. Then it's easy for you to go and ask for extortion from anybody. This person was still agonizing, trying to drag himself through the pavement. The rifle jammed again, so I basically went up to him and smashed him with the butt of the rifle until his head exploded, and that was it.
They got in, I locked the door. When I turned out, I had my guns out. Motherfucker hit the floor, motherfucker.
Jose Manuel Martinez is one of the deadliest cartel hitmen ever. The life Jose Manuel Martinez lived before law enforcement caught up to him is a life that will send shivers down the spine of even the most hardened of criminals. In his hands, death meant nothing.
You can't imagine what people have told me when they hired me to go and kill a person for them. After I get paid, they told me, you know what, Martinez? I feel a weight have lifted from my heart.
Jose Martinez went where the highest bidder carried him. He carried out the dirty work of some of the most brutal cartel leaders, taking lives like it is just another day on the job. He reigned so much terror in several countries that he earned the nickname El Mano Negra, the Black Hand.
My mom got separated from my real biological father. Okay, a few months later, my mom got a new boyfriend.
That's your step, that's Pedro.
Pedro Fernandez.
Becoming a Sicario was kind of a rite of passage for Jose Martinez. His future was kind of sealed when his mother left his father and married his stepfather, Pedro Fernandez, a ruthless drug dealer. Jose Martinez got into drugs very early on in his life, while his stepfather made enough money to keep them happy and safe. When Pedro Fernandez got busted, their reality changed, and Jose stepped up.
My stepdad got busted on 78. Okay, I started selling drugs and I was 16 years old.
Lines as a teenager, something else would lead him on the path to becoming one of the most dangerous hitmen ever.
At that time, that's when my sister got murdered. He says here, nice place to bury motherfuckers.
As the oldest boy in the household, Joseph felt responsible for the family. After all, he had already begun to take care of them financially. So when his sister was murdered, it forced him to become something else, something more sinister. And he did.
I didn't want to give the full explanation because I want to get them. I didn't want the cops to find them. I want to find them myself.
When Jose came face to face with his sister's killer, he did not hesitate to exact his revenge.
We broke in there, and we find one, I shot him. There was a dish next to the house, and I buried it. Why would they have proper burial? Let the worm eat them.
From that moment on, something broke inside Jose Martinez. I was a nice man until they killed my sister. And since then, I said, "Fuck the rapers and the child molesters." When my father was in the funeral, I told my dad, "I'm going to get those motherfuckers." He said, "Son, let God take care of them." I said, "Dad, God ain't gonna do shit." I feel so proud. It was, I don't know, you feel good. You feel something relax in your heart when you take revenge. Taking revenge for the death of his sister sent Jose Martinez on a dark path. He would become a ruthless killer who thought nothing of ending a life. And what's worse, he never left any evidence.
When you're a dumb cop, you're always gonna be a dumb cop.
Really?
But that is true, okay?
I don't
Yeah.
know. What should they have done? I mean, what they say is you didn't leave any evidence.
Yes, exactly, I never leave evidence, okay?
For decades, Jose Martinez operated as El Mano Negra. Many people lived in fear of his name.
They got in, I locked the door. When I turned out, I had my guns out. Motherfucker hit the floor, motherfucker.
When they finally caught up to Jose, they couldn't find one single thing to tie him to the murders, so he helped them out by confessing. When they asked him how many lives he took, he said,
Could you tell us how many people you killed?
About 36 people.
However, it is said the reality is much more than that. That there were a lot of deaths law enforcement believed he caused, but they had no proof.
Once a thief, always a thief. They say once a gangster, always a gangster. Once a killer, always a killer. See,
I said I had, knowing that I had never took nobody's life, so he pulled out a handgun, told me to kill that person, the one kneeling in front of him. And I just shot him.
Rosalio Herrera, a Sicario, worked for the ruthless, violent leader of the Los Zetas cartel, someone you might know by the name of Miguel Angel Trevino. When Miguel Angel Trevino was the leader of Los Zetas, it was known as one of the most dangerous cartels in the world, responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths. Rosalio Herrera single-handedly took down a number of those.
But you don't practice with paper targets. It's a constant war zone. You practice with live targets.
Rosalio Herrera was born in Nuevo Laredo, a small city in the Mexican state of Tamaulipas. Like most kids his age born in Mexico, his family soon moved to Texas, where he lived in the border town of Laredo, Texas. Like many people who lived in that town, Rosalio had family on both sides of the border, making it easy for him to navigate the US and Mexico, something most cartel leaders are looking for in a hitman. Other than his dual citizenship, growing up near the border introduced Rosalio to a unique lifestyle, a dangerous one. He was exposed to a lot of cartel activity and sicarios as he was growing up that it was almost inevitable that he would become one. But it all changed for him at just 13 years old when he was taken across the border by two friends where he met the fearsome Mig Trevino.
I've known this man, and he's not gonna tell you to do something that he won't do himself. And that's why a lot of people follow him.
On the very day he met Miguel Trevino, Rosalio witnessed something that he had never seen before in his life, something that changed him forever.
Pulled up and just I couldn't believe what I was seeing. People getting tortured, killed, decapitated. It was kind of hard to believe, I know. Because I knew that day my life had just changed forever.
As he was standing there watching the horror unfold, Miguel Trevino noticed him and angrily asked him what he was doing there. When he told Trevino why he was there, Trevino asked him a question Rosalio felt like he had no choice but to answer.
I think they saw that scared, panicked look in my face and asked me if I had ever killed somebody.
Having just seen people tortured and taken out right in front of him, Rosalio decided to lie that he had taken a life before. What happened is something he still regretted till this day.
I don't even know why I answered that question, why I said yes. And that was the first time that I had to shoot somebody that very same night.
But witnessing his first execution, when he was just a 13-year-old boy in 6th grade, was not the worst thing that happened to Rosalio Herrera. The worst was still to come.
He became close with Miguel Trevino. He became real close with the big boss. He trusted him. He gave Rosalio the big jobs. He was proud of the work that he did. He basically took him underneath his wing and trained him to be just like him.
After following Miguel Trevino's commands on that fateful day, Miguel put Rosalio on his payroll and told him to go back to the US, that he would call him when he needed him. 2 weeks later, the phone rang.
Said, don't worry about it. Go back to school, to wherever you're doing, and I'm gonna call you when I need you. 2 weeks later, call me back to Mexico.
Rosalio was part of a small task force, if you will, under the command of Miguel Trevino. They did everything he wanted, took down anyone he wanted. All had to do was point. Miguel put Rosalio and the other Sicarios on his payroll on a $500 weekly payment, but if they successfully completed a job, he would pay them anywhere from between $10,000 to $50,000, depending on how important the target was.
Miguel Trevino, he was a monster. He was horrible. The stuff that he forced Rosalio to do, the stuff that he had to witness, should never have been forced on anybody.
The more brutality Rosalio witnessed under Miguel's wing, the more brutal he himself became.
I seen one time Miguel Trevino was torturing somebody. It was two brothers, and he made one brother kill the other one. He told them, look, only one of y'all is gonna live. So you have to kill him, or you kill him, so decide. The people we were using as targets were rival cartel members. There used to be 50, 60, sometimes over 100 people, just like cattle for the slaughterhouse.
Torturing people to extract information became one of Rosalio's strongest skills, and he learned at the hand of the very best.
But I've done it before. Yes, I have. I mean, I've done the simple stuff that everybody starts doing. Put teeth out, cut fingers up, slowly.
Though the violence started to get to Rosalio at some point, and he developed a distaste for what he did for a living, the money was still coming in, and it was good. So although he hated it, he became extremely good at it.
I didn't enjoy it, but I tried to be the best at what I was doing.
Rosalio eventually turned himself in Laredo and is now serving a life sentence. In the underworld of narcotics and illegal arms trade, men dominate. It's been like that since the beginning. But there was one woman who went head-to-head against some of the biggest cartel bosses in the business. Sandra Ailla Beltron, the Queen of the Pacific.
Yo culpable no, porque nunca le he hecho yo daño a nadie. Remordimiento tampoco, porque yo no he hecho nunca mal.
Sandra Ailla Beltron was one of a kind. She seamlessly merged the world of fashion and glamour with the ruthlessness of the cartel business.
While in prison in Mexico, authorities say she managed to get a Botox treatment.
Sandra Ailla Beltron is a very famous former Mexican narcotics dealer. She was said to have controlled major drug routes between Colombia and Mexico before shipping them to the US. She was very good at it and became so famous that she had books, movies, and TV shows made about her. Unlike most people on this list, Sandra was born into the world of crime. Her mother was Maria Luisa Beltran Felix and Alfonso Avila Quintero, a relative of Rafael Caro Quintero, a one-time brutal leader of the Guadalajara cartel. Sandra joining the cartel business was as easy as anyone joining their family business. It was all she knew. As she grew up, though, she became more heavily involved in the business when she dated several known narcos. Her first husband was a former police commander who later became a drug kingpin, and believe it or not, so was her second husband. Sandra also had a very close relationship with the Beltran Leyva brothers, the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel at the time. But it gets worse. Sandra is also the niece of Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, the godfather of Mexican drug cartels. It seemed narcotics trafficking ran in Sandra's blood, So it was natural that she would be drawn to people neck deep in the cartel world, because she would go on to date a very infamous and ruthless cartel boss, someone known all over the world, Juan Diego Espinoza Ramirez, the Tiger. The Tiger was one of the leaders of the vicious Colombian cartels, Norte de Valle, one of the wealthiest and powerful Colombian cartels in recent time. This cartel also shipped major narcotics to Mexico before being smuggled into the US. Once she got involved with the Tiger, her fate in the narcotics world was sealed. She created her own narcotics shipment route into the US, devising a way to get it into the US without being detected. Speedboats. She successfully ran her narcotics smuggling operation for years, making millions and millions of dollars in the process. But in 2001, her thriving narcotics business came to a grinding halt when she was arrested after the US authorities seized tons and tons of narcotics on a ship in the Pacific port. Unfortunately for Sandra, that shipment was traced right back to her, leading to the arrest of her and her boyfriend, the Tiger.
She was arrested just hours before her lover, a powerful Colombian drug lord who's still behind bars.
While she was in prison, Sandra managed to keep up appearances, dressing in fashionable clothes and even getting cosmetic procedures. But for some reason, she didn't spend long in prison before she was released and back to her business. After her release, Sandra seemed to run into even more trouble when her son was kidnapped, the kidnappers asking for a $5 million ransom. Sandra quickly paid the ransom, but in the process, drew the attention of the Mexican authorities, who had been keeping an eye on her. $5 million was a lot of money, and the authorities wondered where the money came from. Once they put an investigation in motion, it didn't take long for them to piece together what Sandra actually did for a living. She was subsequently arrested on September 28, 2007, and extradited to the US in 2012. For her role in shipping narcotics across the border, Sandra was convicted by the US government and given a 70-month prison sentence. But in a surprising turn of events, she was released and deported to Mexico after serving only 4 months. Once she landed in Mexico, she was rearrested by the Mexican government, who also tried her for money laundering and hit her with a 5-year prison term. In 2015, Sandra was released from prison and moved to Guadalajara, where she lives a relatively quiet life. But in a chilling interview a few years after she was released, Sandra shockingly revealed she regretted nothing about what she did.
Yo culpable no, porque nunca le he hecho yo daño a nadie. Remordimiento tampoco, porque yo no he hecho nunca mal.
But she did admit to feeling a lot of pain due to the amount of people she lost to the underworld of the narcotics business.
No descansas. Estás cambiándote constantemente de ciudad, de casa. No puedes tener amistades, no puedes ver a tu familia. Es agobiante.
She also revealed she was happy when she was finally caught, as she didn't like living life on the run.
Fue un alivio ser detenida, no regresar a ser salva, a ser detenida, allá no ir. Sí fue.
At the bottom of this list is Ricardo Ruiz, better known as his alias R. We saved him for the last because, unlike everyone on this list, R is still very much active in the cartel world. In a rare but chilling interview, R gave a close view of life as a Sicario.
We are all bad guys. That's the reality. Why? Because at the end of the day, the work is the same.
R is a high-ranking member of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, also known as CJNG. And if you know the atrocities this cartel has rained on Mexico, then you know what R is capable of. One of his many talents is social media. In fact, if you've ever come across videos of CJNG members torturing people by displaying their weapons, you have double to thank for that. He's been responsible for popularizing and normalizing disturbing cartel videos online. R rose through the ranks of the CJNG due to his ruthlessness. He's been linked to several deaths, including being suspected of masterminding the death of the Secretary of Tourism in Jalisco, Mexico, a man named Jose de Jesus Gallegos Alvarez. R is very powerful and very dangerous. The only man he answers to is Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, who works very closely with El Mencho, the leader of CJNG. He's been said to rain terror on every region he occupies, making them submit to his will and the will of the CJNG. But just as much as he's known for being brutal, he's also known for his penchant for fun. He loves to throw lavish parties and invite narco corridos performers who write songs about the narco life. One such guest is singer Luisa Conriquez, who has performed in many such parties put together by the CJNG, so much so that the authorities in Mexico began to refer to him as the official musician of the CJNG. It turns out that Double R's love for the good life would be his downfall. Once the Mexican authorities figured out that he loves to invite Luis Conriquez, all they had to do was keep a close watch on Luis, hoping he would lead them to Double R. And that's exactly what happened. One occasion, Double R plans his lavish parties as usual and invited Luis. This time though, the Mexican army received intel that he was going to be there, so they used that opportunity to follow him and gather information. While they didn't arrest him there, they now had more information on his movements. A few months later, they quietly went into Double R's hiding spot and captured him. Although his men were not about to go down easy, they fought back fiercely and got him back. Today, Double R is still walking the streets of Jalisco, reigning terror with no one to check him. Hey, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this story? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.